social media in general is super interesting because it really came up in the past 10 years, but really the
Hmm.
past, I feel like during COVID is when it really hit its rhythm into sort of a creator economy versus just people posting for fun. And then even in the past couple of years, it's been less about virality and more about community. Like, yes, virality will still get you places, but in the context of what I do, um, I'm more focused on the community aspect of things.
I'm Josiah. This is Young Adults Today, and we're thrilled to have you join my wife Micah as co host. Our guest is Nadine Krill from Thursdays at Mariners. This is one of my favorite conversations that we've had out of over 350 episodes because you're watching. You're listening because you want to communicate in a way that resonates with the native language of the next generation. You're in the right place. Welcome to the Young Adults Today podcast. We'd love to have you subscribe. We'd love to have you share this with a friend and maybe another church leader who needs more insight on social media, on building not just a viral vanishing social media post, but using social media effectively to build community. That's right. Not just virality, but consistency. This is Young Adults Today podcast. I'm Josiah,
And I'm Micah Keneally.
and we're here with Nadine. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely. What we want to talk about today is something that the listener understands instinctually, and it is there's a way to communicate that is. Did you ever watch like Charlie Brown ever?
I did. Yeah.
Remember when like the adults talked and it was like, well, wah. I think there's a
hmm
way to communicate that's like legit, wah.
hmm
And then there is a way to communicate the native language of the next generation.
That's good.
That's
hmm
what we want to focus on today, cultivating creativity. And again, communicating. A friend, Ron Starling, said on the show a couple episodes back, he said, if you are communicating without hooks in your sermons, in your clips, you're at a disadvantage. We learned a
hmm
ton from him. You know what? Going back a few episodes back, too, there's a local creative, Caitlin, and she just, I mean, she's talking about how we partner with heaven and we have access to
hmm
all of heaven. So that's where we're going today. But why are you passionate about young adults?
Yeah. So, excuse me. I am passionate about young adults, I think, first and foremost, because I am one. And just, I think even before I became a young adult, I have been hearing for most of my life, hey, your 20s are the most formative years of your life. And it's where I think they call it the defining decade in your 20s
Totally.
or something like that. And it's where you're actually figuring out your faith for the first time apart from your family, usually in a culture that is very anti-faith, anti-religion. And I think, yeah, we're just figuring out who we are as humans. We want to be outside and inside the context of our families as well. And maybe in different states than where we grew up. I grew up on the East Coast and I'm in Southern California now, which is truly the best place on earth, I believe. Um, but yeah, I think just my heart is for young adults mostly because I am one and I am passionate about becoming who God has made me to be. And this is, I think, a big piece of that being in my 20s. So,
Oh my God. Nadine, I love that answer because it couldn't be more true. And I would love to hear like where kind of maybe where you've come from a little bit of your journey of
mhm,
life, but where did like the passion and dream for like creativity get sparked? Like, was there a moment in your life where like I was born to be creative? It started with fashion
mhm.
or like what did that look like for you in your journey?
That's a great question. So I grew up on the East Coast, right outside of DC, and I feel like for most of my life, and my parents are great. They're very much like, "Hey, go after your dreams." But at the same time, where I grew up, it was very much okay. You go get a corporate job, and
Mhm.
you sit in a cubicle from 9 to 5, and then you get a certain amount in your bank account, and then you have the 2.5 kids and the white picket fence and all of that. But I always found myself I don't know, choosing a different answer when people would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'm like, everything sounds super boring. What do you mean? Like, no shade to anybody who has a normal 9 to 5. Like, that's awesome. That's how God made you. But I also had undiagnosed ADHD for most of my life. And
Whoa.
so part of that, I think my brain just works a little bit differently. And I've always loved the arts and just creativity in general. And I think social media in general is super interesting because it really came up in the past 10 years, but really the
Hmm.
past, I feel like during COVID is when it really hit its rhythm into sort of a creator economy versus just people posting for fun. And then even in the past couple of years, it's been less about virality and more about community. Like, yes, virality will still get you places, but in the context of what I do, um, I'm more focused on the community aspect of things. So I think God is so kind. And when I was younger, I used to love watching YouTube videos and um, I don't know, just my mom was always like, stop being on your phone. And now I'm like, well, my phone pays my bills now. So, and before I was just taking pictures anyway. And that's how I connected with people. And then how I really got into what I'm doing now. During COVID, I lived alone and I'm an extrovert by nature, more of an ambivert because there's definitely some moments where I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I learned how to create communities online, how to use hooks and all that, and how to really get your point across in because back then TikTok was only 60 seconds or less.
Yep.
So how do I communicate well? And so with that, I would just say that um, my creativity sparked over um, COVID, and that's when I really realized, oh, I can do this for a living. And I went to school to be a teacher, made a hard left turn, started doing socials for Museum of the Bible in DC as my first corporate
No
job.
way.
So
That's fun.
yeah,
Love the
I've been in the
Museum of the
creative
Bible.
film or field ever since. It's an awesome place. So yeah.
Love that journey.
Coast to
Mhm.
coast creativity.
Mhm.
And I want to pick your brain. Like, you're one of the people, honestly, that we've been so excited to have on this podcast. Near the top of 2026. It's still the beginning of the year as we record,
Mhm.
and people might watch it soon. They might watch a replay later. But I think that, again, you brought up hooks.
Mhm.
What's your take on what is a hook? How do they work? And why is it important for a young adult pastor, a lead pastor, somebody who is a young adult and passionate
Mhm.
about reaching their generation?
Yeah, I would say definitely to anybody listening, go back and listen to Ron's episode. He's definitely more well versed than I am in hooks, but um, I tend to take the more personal aspect to creating content. So I would say even getting to know your congregation, like yes, your videos are going to be seen worldwide, right? Like even if you're getting 2,000 views, you don't know where those 2,000 views are coming from. And I always go back to this one moment where when I first started creating content, I was sitting there and a video came up and they said, hey, 20 views might seem like not a lot, but if 20 people were standing there watching you make this video, you'd be a little bit overwhelmed. And so I always kind of think of that whenever I look at
Mm.
views. And so I just want to encourage anybody who's listening that's like, oh, well, we're only reaching 200 people. But at the same time, like most young adult ministries and even just churches in America in general are maybe even struggling to get 200 people in the room. So that's awesome. And I think too with hooks, yes, they're important. And also, if my hook had something to do with the context of living in DC, it will not hit as well as it would for a hook that had a context of living in Southern California. So I would say for pastors and anybody who's trying to reach the next generation, um, my heart for social media is always to get people off the internet into rooms in real life. Like
Hmm.
online community is so great, but if you actually want to grow in your faith,
Yeah.
it's a lot harder to hide in person. So that's that's kind of my take on social media, and that's I think very different from a lot of creators, and they're all doing such a good job online. But my heart is definitely for in-person community. So
You said something a second ago, Nadine, where you said community is more important than virality.
mhm.
And I would agree. I would
Mm-hmm.
agree, but unpack that a little bit more.
Yeah, so I think for just the nature of what we're doing with the church, virality is awesome. That'll get a million eyes on things. But at the end of the day, right, like we grow as believers in the context of the church. There's a million people that will say, oh, well, it's just me and God, and that's fine. But the reality is that the Bible and God Himself says, hey, that's not okay. We were
Mm-hmm.
created by a communal God to do life together, and then that's how we grow. And so I think just in a world, especially in America, we're so individualistic, and then online even more so, right? Because when I'm scrolling, I'm doing that by myself. So when I'm creating content, I'm not thinking talking to a bunch of people at once. I'm thinking, okay, I'm talking to one person at one time. So yes, I know that this is going to be seen by a whole bunch of people, but at the same time, I'm not going to say, hey guys, like I'm talking to one person, but then also hitting at their need for community. And I think in our early 20s, I mean, even with the girls that I'm leading in Rooted right now, most of the reason they joined Rooted was not necessarily to find out more about God, but to build community post grad. And
Whoa.
Yeah.
so
Whoa.
um, I think that is just a pain point in a lot of young adults, and that's where the church can really come in and help fill that hole. Because yes, everybody needs Jesus, and also we need the church. Like you can't love the bridegroom without the bride. Like that wedding doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's so good.
That will preach.
So
Amen.
good. You're hitting the nail on the head, I think, when you say like young adults are looking for community. Like they didn't sign up
mhm.
for rooted necessarily, but they're gonna walk out here with a group of friends and it's gonna be
Yeah.
built on Christ whether they realize it or not. And it's whether or not they're
Hmm.
gonna partake in a personal relationship or when that happens in the journey, if it hasn't happened yet.
Hmm.
And to realize like know your community is what stood out to me. And I think so many times in ministry or in the creative content world, like you can constantly look at other people's and you're wondering like how did they do that, how can I do
Hmm.
that? But if you, like you said, I'm just thinking about the one that I'm trying to reach. Like Jesus left the
Yeah.
99 for the one.
Hmm.
It was a one-on-one conversation that you're thinking of like if I could present something, yes, a million eyes are going to have it, yes, a million opinions, but when it comes down to it, you are stewarding the gift that God has given you to create
Hmm.
a culture of community that is Christ centered. So if you could tell like the American young adult one thing, anything under the sun, what would you want to tell them today? Content related or maybe just like personal walk or whatever that looks like.
Well, I'm sure that not everybody listening is necessarily creative in the way that they think. I personally will go down that road of everybody's a creative in some sense because our creator made us in his image.
Yep.
Yeah.
But my one piece of encouragement would be to get plugged into a local church, like actually go there and serve and don't just church hop around. I think if you want to see fruit, Dallas actually told me this. He said it takes at least 2 years to bear fruit. And that was in the context of ministry and doing that vocationally. But I think it's such a cheesy saying, but it's so true that fruit takes time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think in a culture of instant gratification where we can order whatever we want on Amazon, when we can doom scroll to get that hit of dopamine, it can be hard to stay through seasons that are maybe a little bit more challenging and grow us. But um, yeah, I think my piece of advice would be to find a local church, serve, and stay. So
I love it.
yeah.
Powerful.
Yes.
Yes. And that, like Nadine, that has made so much difference in my own life.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
my story. That's Micah's story. It sounds like that's your story as well, of the
Mm-hmm.
friends, the mentors, the leaders, the discipleship, and then those moments with God where he marked me, where he
Mm-hmm.
met me, where he lifted my head, where he gave me the next obedient step to respond to my. And something that I've feel like at moments I've had an up close view because before Thursdays at Mariners launched, we've spent time
Mm-hmm.
there. When it launched, we spent time there and we've been back a number of times. And it feels like home to me because the Lord's my dwelling place, what
Yeah.
the Psalm says. But God's doing something really special every
Mm-hmm.
Thursday night with young adults in Orange County, Southern California. What's your vantage point? What's God doing?
I don't know that God is like, yes, obviously it's crazy and so different than what he's doing at every other church, but I think I can't speak to other churches, but I can speak to our church and the team for Thursday nights and even just our leadership above just the everybody on staff at Mariners is amazing. But I think especially for our young adults just on staff, we, sorry, for everybody's on staff with our young adult team, I think just our reverence and awe for the Lord,
Mm,
and just humility and knowing, hey, it's not us, this is Him. But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, like we are going to work our butts off and do what we can to steward this gift that He's given us well, and not perfectly, of course. Things happen because we're people and we're human, and there's always a margin for error. But I think just at the end of the day, like I mean, May is on maternity leave right now, but she's our worship director, and you just I don't know, you can tangibly feel almost her love for the Lord whenever she leads worship. And it's not a performance, it's truly
mm,
leading people not into God's presence, right? Because he's always there, but just being aware of his presence and how he's moving. And then I think Dallas, like he truly is just such a shepherd and he cares about
agreed.
people and stewarding their hearts more than he cares about stewarding a platform or being on a stage. And that's great. But I think like our goal will always be the people in the room. Like even when I'm creating content, I'm thinking okay, so if I'm a new person who's just moved to Orange County and I'm trying to find a place where I can belong,
Exactly.
a place to fit in,
Yep.
can I see myself here? So we won't always hop on every single trend. Like I love Olivia Dean Down. Maybe not the place to be using her lyrics on a church platform for our church, right? And
Yeah.
that might not be the case for somebody else's church, but I think that's where it's really important to know the heartbeat of your church because that's the beauty of the body of Christ is that we are so diverse. And so
Mhm.
I might not personally want to go to a super trendy church, or I might not want to go to a church that has all the lights and everything, or that might be more of my vibe. And like God created each of us so uniquely. And yeah, it's just so cool to see that there is truly a place for everybody in the body of Christ. So
I
yeah.
love it. When we've been behind the scenes with Dallas and Pastor Eric, we've kind of
Mhm.
seen and heard things like, hey, like we've been on site, we've been on campus, we've seen a lot of things, just even outsiders coming in, being so warmly welcomed by the team of people and pastoral staff, but then also being mindful, like you guys are hosting suppers for couples before a Thursday night, community
Hmm.
being built for new people. Then you have
Yeah,
those like little study huts. I don't even know what you
Oh,
call those.
right.
Where the volleyball courts used to be. What is it? What do you guys call those things now? Study
that's a really good question. I don't know. I call them the pods by the
Yeah.
the
coffee
pods.
stand.
Yeah.
So then you have
Yeah.
all those people that are meeting in their groups in the pods before you
Outside.
Hmm.
go
It's
onto
amazing.
Thursday. Then you have the
Yeah.
people sitting in services and experiencing God and just those multiple layers of community happening and on ramping people in new ways, whether they're newly
Hmm.
married, brand new to Orange County, brand new to Mariners, just trying to get plugged in. Is there a specific project that you have loved to work on that you're like, yes, this brings me life?
Just like in terms of creativity.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if y'all have seen this video, but it was the first one that I got to collab with the video team on when I got to Mariners. That was a bigger production, and we were doing Rooted Celebration baptism night, and we had everybody who was getting baptized sign the Lamb's Book of Life, and it was just a clear piece of
Whoa.
plexiglass. And I truly, God bless us with truly the best videographers I think ever in the world. They're so humble and so good at capturing just what God is doing, and I think um, that's definitely been my favorite project. But then also, I just love leading my volunteers. And there's one in particular, and if for some reason she's listening, her name's Cindy, and I love her down. She's such a joy. And my favorite part of the job will always be the people, like getting to just train them and lead them up. And my hope is always, hey, I'm a successful leader if you can do my job better than me one day.
Whoa.
Um, and my encouragement to any creative who might be listening with that is somebody told me this a couple years ago, but they were saying how creatives in the church are kind of like modern day disciples. We're taking account of everything that God is doing in and through his church. And
Whoa.
so we're capturing that in a different way. And yeah, I think just like praying with her before we serve and meeting up and saying, hey, like, what do you need? And um, yeah, that's my favorite part. And then I would say also prayer team at the end. We have a time for altar calls. And during that time too, I tell my team, I'm like, hey, this is still like the person's experience will always be more important than getting the shot. Because
Yep.
there will always be a shot that you can get. But also because Thursdays is so massive, there's so many other ministry leaders from the area that will come and receive. There,
Yep.
you might be getting somebody, honestly, prayer usually when you're responding to it, it's like your worst day on earth. Sometimes it's for something really joyful and that's awesome. And we love to hear those stories, but it's like, hey, this is still a holy moment. And
Yeah.
so if you're going to get a shot, that's fine, but make sure you're like 15 feet back getting silhouettes. Like, don't, we want to keep this private still and keep it holy. So,
Okay, I have a follow-up question. For the creative department listening,
mhm.
for the comm department listening, for the lead pastor, the young adult pastor tuning in, how would you encourage young adult pastors and everybody to play together well? Because you described the
Mhm.
creative team as modern day disciples or capturing moments
Whoa.
Mhm.
of people's lives in ways
Mhm.
just like they did when they wrote Matthew, Mark, Luke, John,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
all of those things. I know because sometimes creatives and comm department can be labeled certain ways,
Mhm.
right? Or there's
Yeah.
expectations that parties have on each other that maybe they're not coming into agreement. How would you encourage the person who, where we can all play in the sandbox well, but we all know our roles well enough to respect each other? Like, what insight
Mhm.
do you have for people who are kind of navigating maybe the newness of all of that?
Yeah.
That makes
That's a really
sense.
good question. No, it does make sense. I think number one is being sensitive to Holy Spirit. And so, hey, am I speaking out of my pride? Because I know creatives, myself included, like we can get a little prideful and be like, no, I know what's best, or um, not wanting to necessarily lead with questions. But I think, especially if you're new to a church and you're creative and you're probably like if you're one of the best creatives ever and you're like, okay, well, I know what worked in my last church. That might have worked there, but that might not work here.
Right.
So I would say like go slowly. It's a marathon, not a sprint. There will be times when you are
Mm.
sprinting, but come in curious, ask questions, really get to know. Because I think what's created some of our success with Thursday socials and creative team is spending a lot of time with Dallas and the team, getting to know their heartbeat and to know, okay, like what is the vision? How do we protect it? And then at the same time, how do we show that vision well and capture well, not perfectly again, but
Mhm.
doing well. And then I think for leader like pastors too who are listening, maybe you're creative, maybe you're not, I would say Dallas is such a great leader, and even like Pastor Eric too. They, I think once you establish that trust, they're like, okay, like go and get it, you know what you're doing, I'll ask for what you need, and then if it's super out of line we'll say no, but um I think don't be afraid to ask for what you need, and let your creatives work because God has gifted them uniquely. And yeah, again, for the creatives, like submit and stay curious and then push it a little bit if you need to. But
Yeah.
um, yeah.
Yeah. To have that experience, that freedom and creativity to do the
Hmm.
work that they're entrusting with you to do
And
and accomplish. So
I think one thing that you said, just I haven't thought that I also share sometimes where I describe creativity almost as a fire. And this is more of a um, like an encouragement for pastors. Give your creative team a boundary because if we don't know what you want, it's really hard sometimes to come up with a vision. So I describe it as creativity when it has good boundaries around it. It's like a fireplace. It brings light and warmth and everything that you need. If there are no boundaries, it's a wildfire. And we saw what happened in California last year when those wildfires happened. But then if there's too many constraints, it's like a candle. It's pretty, but it burns out really quickly.
come
So you got
on.
to kind of find that fireplace moment. So
Nadine,
Holy
I think that
smokes.
is an incredible way to describe it. I love that. That's so
thank
good.
you.
I do too. I'm on my own personal journey, Nadine, like at age 34. I remember when the first iPhone came out, and I remember getting that
Hmm.
when I was in like late high school, early college. I remember when Instagram first, I remember Vine, I
Hmm.
remember joining Facebook or Twitter, all of them. And then I realized too, there's limits in my own life. Part of it could be age, stage. We have young kids, so I try to limit my
Hmm.
screen time. And then part of what Dallas and I talk a lot about, and like I can't do everything, nor
Hmm.
do I want to do everything. Reading in the Bible in a year reading plan this morning, Jethro told Moses. So a mentor told a mentee who is
Hmm.
exhausted, overwhelmed, overworked, overscheduled, and burning out. He said, hey, Moses, appoint leaders of thousands, of
Hmm.
hundreds, of fifties, of tens. Hand over the keys to the kingdom. What you said, the way you said it, Nadine, was success as a leader is if somebody else can do your job better than you.
Hmm.
Whoa, I'm on a journey the past since like September when our Instagram for young adults today got out of my account and into a Gen Zer's hand. We
Hmm.
still write 90+% of the content. I feel like home base for me as a creative is probably writing. I think
Hmm.
that might be one of my top, maybe above speaking or video or anything. I feel home base is writing. So I'll write it, Micah will write it, but a Gen Zer, I think he's 26,
Helps interpret it.
Hmm.
and helps visually make
There you
it
go.
look so good. And
Hmm.
since doing that, the past 4 months, 10,000 new people have joined the journey.
Wow.
And it was when I stopped being a do it all leader.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
was the bottleneck. The way Carrie Newhoff said it a year ago, that just, he read my mail. He said, the reason what you're leading isn't growing is because you're doing everything, attending everything, leading everything,
Hmm.
communicating everything, and responsible for everything. So I just want to testify to what you're saying of what if somebody does it better than you? And in the world of social media,
Hmm.
I've just found that that is one of the most logical things to like at our home church, Emmanuel. I try to give our interns, our team,
Hmm.
other staff,
Hmm.
young adults are running the TikTok, they're running the IG account
Mhm.
Hmm.
because they communicate the language of their generation better than me. Can you pick that apart or weigh in on
Hmm.
that or comment on that?
Yeah, I think that's really wise. I would say it's so easy for us, especially as creatives, right, to want to control every piece of the pie. But um, there's just something so beautiful about releasing. Like at the end of the day, I'm not God, and that's where I find my rest
Mhm.
and my security and my identity, and knowing that, hey, it's so much better to bring other people into this, and honestly, too, it's a battle of the flesh. It's like, okay, am I going to be humble enough to accept the fact that I need help and that somebody might do my job better than me? And that should be encouraging because at the end of the day, like this might be a little bit dark, but nobody's going to live forever. I mean,
Mhm.
I
eternal life
know,
with Jesus,
I
but
know, I know.
then to continue telling the story to the next generation, like you need to raise the next generation up because there's
Yep.
a generation after that and after that and after that. We don't know when he's going to come back. So we have to act like it could be today, but it could be 10,000 years from today. So what
Yep.
are you doing in light of that?
That's awesome.
I don't know if I answered your question well, but
No,
Oh,
I love that.
my word. The theme verse for our ministry is what you just said right there. Psalm 145:4. One generation is to tell the next of the marvelous deeds of
mm,
God. So I don't need to be marvelous. I don't need to be astonishing. I don't need to
hmm
be spectacular. Jesus already is. I
yeah.
do have a role though, and it is to tell the next generation about his marvelous deeds, his
Mhm.
goodness, how he showed up in my life, how he can do the same glorious things
Yeah.
and even greater things for them. How else would you encourage? You've talked about your team. What is the
Hmm.
social media team of volunteers? So you're saying like young adults
Hmm.
in their 20s and 30s, they could show up on a Thursday at Mariners, but they could serve young adults and their generation within the team. What does that look like?
Um, that's actually, I think, my toughest challenge, excuse me, right now has been finding volunteers that will stay. Because I think which is why I'm so grateful for the couple of volunteers I do have. I have another one. His name is Hayden, and he does photo and video, and it's awesome to see him learn. Um, and then because young adults are just so transient, I think like they're always
Mhm.
moving or they're always looking for the next best thing, and so um, that's actually been kind of a challenge for me is to recruit volunteers for social specifically. But um, yeah, so I don't know. I'm learning. If anybody in your community has any suggestions, that would be awesome. But
Whoa, amazing.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, light
I
up the
love it.
Hmm.
comments.
Hit the comments. I
Yeah.
need to know. Ah.
I have found that it is easier to post about needing volunteers than to necessarily go out and try to recruit. Because I'm like, if you're already on social, it's like, or if I see
Yeah.
somebody posting about us a lot, then I'll DM them and be like, hey, you want to join socials? You're not going to be in front of the camera a lot, but
Behind
Yep,
the scene.
yep,
so
Oh
easily.
yeah.
my gosh. Okay, so it may sound like a big question, but I had to write it down.
Hmm.
How can leaders think beyond event, church, ministry promotion into a headspace of using social media as a pulpit, very similar to like a digital Billy Graham, to preach the
Hmm.
gospel, to add value, to reach the next generation where they're spending a lot of their time? Like, how can leaders think beyond church, event,
Hmm.
and ministry promotional things? Is there anything that
Yeah.
comes to mind?
I think Eric does a really phenomenal job of this because we don't always cut sermon clips from him, but when we do, it's because he'll say, so he does the same sermon 7 times in a weekend because
I know.
he's a freaking rock star. So, but for Thursday nights, he'll do it differently and he'll specifically address us and he'll say, now for you young adults or for you in your
Wow.
20s and 30s or in your college years. And that's like usually our cue. Okay, this is meant to go out. And this is also meant for the room. And so I think in that case, just thinking that way, okay, if we all know the general buckets of what people are struggling with in culture, right? Like we know usually it's um like you don't know what your identity is, you're struggling with like some sort of addiction, name all the different kinds that you can, you're looking for your worth anywhere else but Jesus. And so I think um finding those broad buckets, like almost broad pain points, but then making them really specific
That's
to
good.
be able to minister to people. So, and then also keeping it shorter because, you know, people don't usually stay on one video for 2, 3 minutes at a time. And it's okay if you don't have to get your whole point across in
Mm-hmm.
that amount of time. But I think figuring out, okay, what's one piece of information I want them to walk away with? And then that would also be good for socials. And then beyond event promotion, Um, I mean, if you look at our Thursdays at Mariners account for a
Which
little
you
bit,
should follow, by the way. If you are not, it is one of the leading young adult ministries you need to follow.
Yep.
thank you. That's so kind. It's literally, oh God. It was a struggle for a second because we were trying to figure out how to, because we launched three new congregations on January
Right?
1st, which
Yes.
is awesome. But they didn't have their own social media accounts for the first month. Praise God, now they do. Um, and hopefully I've given them enough tools and God will fill in the rest about how to
Yes.
run their accounts. And
Yep.
I'm always open for them. But um, I would say, yeah, just showing the community, like inviting people in always. So always from the lens of how do I invite people in and also send them out. So, um, because we're not just supposed to stay in our Christian bubble. We're supposed to reach beyond that. But then how do we do that in a way that's still set apart, if that makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
That's so good.
It's
So,
powerful. Where that question comes from is a study. We can link to it in the show notes. It's called The Great Opportunity, put out by the Pine Tops or the Treetops Foundation. Anyway, they studied and they found as many as 30 million Gen Z was going to leave the faith. Do you know about this?
no.
Oh my word. So, great opportunity study. You could Google it, you can download it, it's free. We'll link to it. But essentially, they found that 30 to 50 million Gen Z were going to leave the faith, but they found seven things that churches could do, one of which was being to raise up digital Billy Grahams. And the survey kind of asked, like, where is the modern DL Moody? Where is the
Hmm.
modern person who's starting a Bible college, a church, a publishing
Hmm.
arm? These things that Moody started still exist to today. Moody
Yeah.
Radio, all of these
Mm-hmm.
things. And so Instagram and John Tyson has taught on this from New York City. He has a vision of not only his sermon clips, he wants to theologically train 10 Gen Zers in his church with the
Hmm.
theology that they need to go and preach the gospel through their own accounts.
That's so
And
good.
I think that that is really, really powerful. That's changed and influenced my
Hmm.
thinking of people don't need to hear more of me, but we could disciple and invest. Where is, the next person that we're going to raise up that has a voice
Hmm.
to the next generation? I think that's so powerful. How else would you encourage maybe a young adult pastor, a church, maybe they're starting, taking over a young adult ministry? Let us into your mind. What else do you think advice is on how to steward a social media account?
Oh, that's good.
Um, from a personal standpoint to any young adults listening, if you wouldn't be okay with it being shown to your lead pastor or on church on a Sunday, maybe think twice before you post it. Um, and um, you know, if you don't love it, archive it. But and then for the ministry leader who's starting out their own um whatever young adults
Yeah,
page,
yeah.
I know that you're taught, oh, post 30 times a day, like post as much content as you can. I would say being consistent is more important than being like quality over quantity.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you still want to get posts out there, but it's going to be so much worse for your ministry if you're posting 15 times in 1 week and then all of a sudden you drop off the face of the earth and you post twice.
Yep.
And so I think being aligned too with your teaching calendar with what's going on in the world. So this month it's February right now. I know that we're going to have a couple of posts going out that are more Valentine's Day themed and then also
Mhm.
themed around our pre and post service events. So for example, we're going to do Valentine's and Thursday nights as one of our posts. That's an easy thing to do if you're a young adult ministry. And then Easter is coming up. So always thinking ahead in the future, how can I plan for the future today? Maybe that's three posts a week for you as a young adult ministry, an invite, a recap, and then something encouraging that's community focused.
That's good.
Whoa.
And then the recap again doesn't have to be the most trendy thing in the world or have the coolest effects. People love seeing themselves as something I've noticed. And so even
Yeah.
our photo recaps always do so much better than anything else. And so if you have a patio or like a living room hang after service, like get pictures of people posed in that, have them, do silly, goofy poses, and they're going to share it to their friends and be like, oh my gosh, I saw you on this post. Even so much more than worship. Like always throw in a couple worship clips because our worship team is fire, and then a sermon recap note, and then maybe a clip from the sermon, and then um, most of it is just people
Hmm.
because God cares about people. And so we're his heartbeat. And so, that's also, we're created to care about people. So,
How the
Mhm.
algorithm, I think, works in 2026. Number one, the leader of Instagram talks about this. I follow his account, and he says that Instagram is working with the algorithm to reward consistent,
Hmm.
quality content
Mhm.
creators.
Yeah.
And how I used social media for like a decade was so embarrassing.
It was
Looking
for all of
back,
us, though.
looking
Like,
back,
who
and
doesn't have an
Trying to
archive
learn,
post?
wasn't it? It's not a master class for
Yeah.
like elementary school.
Hmm.
like what I'm realizing right
Mm.
now is that when I position myself not as the hero,
Ooh, that's good.
but as the guide, so young adult ministry, every young adult I meet is looking for a mentor. They're looking
Hmm.
for friends. They're lonely. They want community. So if you want community, what a great hook right there. If you're
Hmm.
looking for community, and for us,
Hmm.
Minneapolis, Minnesota. Our world's
Yep.
crazy out there right now. So if you're looking
Yeah.
for an alternative to the culture, man, there's
Hmm.
a community for you. In Southern California, if you're lonely, looking for community, like
Hmm.
this is what you're solving that problem. You're looking for friends. Hey, we got your back. We'd love to
Right.
introduce you to some of ours. On the young adults today side of things, when we're like, hey, if your church is looking to reach the next generation, here's how, what would help. All of a sudden, we're not the hero. It's solving a really pain point felt need.
Yeah.
And then
Hmm.
we're, as a social media account manager, we're kind of the guide. Agree, disagree, chime
No,
in on
I
that.
definitely agree. Yeah, I think that's so wise because at the end of the day, Jesus is the hero. We're not.
Yep.
We're all just little lights pointing back to the big light. So,
I love
Oh
it.
yeah,
my
I think
word.
that's great.
Okay, Nadine, what else do you want to talk about that you're dreaming about, that fires you up right now, that excites you, that we haven't shared about yet, or we haven't asked you about yet, but now we are?
Gosh, that's such a good question. I don't really know. I'm just really excited for what God is doing at Thursdays at Mariners and Mariners in general. And um, yeah, I'm just excited to see what he's going to do in this world. And I don't know. There's so much to be excited about. The sun is finally coming out in Southern California again. It's 80 degrees today.
It's 18
I
here. It's 80 there.
Oh, flip flop. I
Yep.
mean, hey, baby Southern California is calling your name.
Hey,
But
never.
It is August 12th and 13th. We will do the West Coast Young Adults Today Leader Gathering at Mariners, where you can come and check out a Thursday night. You can
Mhm.
hang with us, with Dallas, with the team. So for sure, open invite. And if you
mhm,
haven't been, it's
You need to be.
special. I think
Yeah.
it's worth
yeah.
a field trip. As a student, I miss the school days where it was a field trip day. Those were my favorite
Hmm.
days. So come with us on a field trip. We're going to have an after party at Thursdays at Mariners. It's worth the trip, don't you think?
Oh,
I think so. I mean, I might be biased, but there's only one way to find out. You got to come see for yourself. But
that's
is there
right.
anything you guys are excited about, looking forward to?
Oh man. I think I get excited seeing the hunger of this next
Hmm.
generation.
Yes.
So I think I used to be a personal trainer and fitness instructor, and there when you're in front of the classroom and the classroom's excited, you feed your feel their energy, like you feed energy off each other. But when they all
Yeah.
stare at you stoically expecting you to entertain when they're there to work out, it's very hard. It's like, do you want to be here?
Hmm.
And I think with this generation, they're excited, they want to be there, and they're looking for pastors, they're looking for opportunities, they're looking for churches, they're
Hmm.
looking for I don't want to say the next best thing, but they're looking to make a difference. So I think that excites me to see, are we experiencing thing like pockets of revival? Yeah.
Hmm.
It's all in where you look and how you perceive things too. Like, where are you looking for your information? So I think I just get excited for what God is doing in the hearts of a generation that are longing to live for him and make a difference. So
The only
anything like
thing
that.
I would add, we just surveyed State of Young Adult Ministry 2026. It's not out yet, but we've seen some of the findings.
Hmm.
And among 75% of the young adult ministry leaders surveyed, do you know what the number one thing that people are coming and coming back for to young adult ministries?
Community is what I want to say.
Community and
Hmm.
friendships. So, what an opportunity in a world that is so digitally connected, but really deep, profound loneliness. young men, young women alike, just
Hmm.
people. And what an opportunity. So, what I'm excited is for the young adults to meet Jesus, for the
Yeah.
future friendships, for the future marriages, for the future families that are
Hmm.
in our ministries right now and in our midst, that we just get to be like an Andrew saying, hey,
Hmm.
meet Jesus. Hey,
Yeah.
check out this miracle that's waiting to happen in your life. But I'm either off my rocker or I sense that God's doing something really special right now. So I go like, what a
Yeah.
time to be alive. We get to
Mm.
see this.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's
Okay,
good.
Nadine, a part of our ending of the podcast is a 5 and 5. So 5 minutes on the
Okay.
clock, five rapid fire questions. Are you up for the challenge?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so this is a new one. This is not in your notes if you receive the notes.
Okay.
Okay,
I
would
did.
you rather have a blank canvas or the finished product as a creative?
Ooh, a blank canvas. I'm always up for a challenge. And the finished product, you can't get there without a blank canvas. So
Good
definitely a
answer.
blank canvas.
Good answer. I love that.
Whoa. Okay. What do you find yourself doing for fun outside of Mariners Church, outside of
Hmm.
Instagram? Just like you find yourself on a day off. What are you doing?
This is, again, like such a cheesy answer, but my beach walks. I love going out there and listening to some worship music and not having to think anything. And it's just so cool looking out at the ocean and seeing the waves come in and out. And I'm like, dang, God really made all this and he made me. That's actually crazy. So
Yeah.
anything I can get movement in, hanging out with friends. I love my people. And yeah, anything I can do to get inspired. But
I love that. Okay, this is where question number 3, you get to become the host of the Young Adults Today podcast for this next part right here. And if you could ask Josiah and myself any question, what would you want to ask us or what would you want to know about us today?
I think just being in ministry myself, and I am 6 days away from my official hire date, so it's almost been 1 year working in a church.
Hey,
Um,
congrats.
but thank you. I would love to know, like, how do you stay and stay well, I think, in ministry? How do you persist in it?
You want to go?
Sure. What
Okay,
comes
you
to
go first.
mind is, first of all, it's a great life and it's an honor.
Mhm.
It is like Paul writes, doesn't complain. It is like, whoa, we get to do this. It's not a have to
Mhm.
do this. There is, especially with the skill set you have, you could, in your region of the country, make way more income than you probably are presently. I don't know if you could find more. For me, I have not
Mhm.
found more purpose, meaning, fulfillment, and impact in other things. And so staying is like, I think it's a joy and it's just
Mhm.
like so special. And then I think it's a lot like parenting. For
Mm-hmm.
me, we have three young kids. These girls are amazing.
Mhm.
I love being their dad. Is it the hardest thing at times that I've ever done? 1000%. Marriage. This is like something that, like, it's not lost on me that we're living the prayers that we once prayed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I think ministry is like that. Like, you get to be with people on the prayer moments, sometimes the
Mhm.
worst days of their life. What an honor to come alongside and join our faith with theirs.
Yeah.
The moments where I've had doubts on people's behalf.
Mhm.
And then God showed up and it's like, whoa, won't he do it?
Yeah.
And then on the moments of like, I'm thinking of babies that were just born. I'm thinking of
Mm-hmm.
marriages that just happened. I'm thinking of breakthrough that people just experienced. To see that
Yeah.
never gets old.
Yeah.
Mhm. That's so good.
I think I would just encourage longevity, like beginning with the end in mind. At the end
Mhm.
of your life, what do you want to have said and done after it's been all been said and done?
Mhm.
So that means I think keeping close to the heart of Christ, keeping a humble heart in the process, and just teaming up the Holy Spirit with everything. I think it's easy to be tempted to build our own kingdom and not
Mhm.
God's in the process. So constantly surrendering every project, every young adult we come across, every idea that yes, God gave to us, it wasn't a Mike idea, it was a God idea. Like giving,
Hmm.
not robbing him of the glory in that process. I think two, having an outlet outside of ministry is vital because
Hmm.
within the ministry walls, at least if you're working with people and young adults to this level and degree, you are pastoring your peers. You are getting sharpened by
Hmm.
your peers. You're mentoring people younger than you, older than you. Maybe you
Hmm.
have the role of pastor or a mentor or discipler. It's hard to discover and uncover like what hat should I be wearing? Is this a friend?
Hmm.
So you're navigating those different layers of responsibility, and at the end of the day, you are still a child of God. Like that is your number one
Yeah.
calling. So when it comes to an outlet, I'm saying like finding something that's outside of the church walls that you can see a start to finish. And being a creative, you probably don't have, you might not have that problem because you're like,
Hmm.
wow, I have the beach, I have my artwork, I'm inspired in this way. Because people are always they're always in progress. They're not a project to
Hmm.
be finished. So I think
Yeah.
that's hard because we're only there for maybe a piece or a season of their life, and we don't know where they're going to end up or how God's going to get them from point A to point B, but we can help along the process. But when I put my hands to a project, I'm like, I saw the white canvas, I see the end project. I can enjoy this room. We can't do that
Hmm.
with people necessarily, right?
Yeah.
And then the third thing is don't take healthy leadership for granted. So if you, I know that you are under some of the
Hmm.
best in the world and nation when it comes to healthy leadership. I truly
Yeah.
believe that for you. I've experienced that by having conversations with your leaders, and just don't take that for granted because that will change at some point because everything is handed off like a baton. But
Hmm.
while you're there, make the most of every opportunity and have fun. That's the biggest thing. I think I could tell
Yeah.
everybody the fourth thing would be have more fun. Like, don't take yourself so seriously to where you're like, I remember being like just uptight, type A. Okay, we have this, this, and this. And it's like, okay, that's not, I don't even want to be with me right now. That's not fun.
Hmm.
Like, stop. And I'm like, God created us. He gave us this world as our playground to do His will. Now, what are we going to do with the playground He's put us on? So that's what comes to my
Hmm.
mind. But
I love that.
question number four, what do you got, Josiah?
So back to you, Nadine. We ask every guest this question, and it's my favorite question to ask. We probably talked a little bit about it, but why
Hmm.
do you believe young adult ministry is so vital?
Yeah, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, I think it's your defining decade. You're figuring out who you want to be. I think, you know, youth is great and the normal congregation is also great, but there's just that in between of, okay, what is there for me? How am I being developed specifically? And I think, especially there, yeah, because you do need to be intentionally discipled. And now there, I think, is such a big gap, whereas maybe 50 years ago, you would just go from graduating school to immediately getting married.
Mm-hmm.
Now you kind of get to figure out who you are on your own and what you want the rest of your life to look like. Like you said, Micah, what does the end goal look like? And that doesn't just have to be for people in vocational ministry, but also
Mm-hmm.
just in life in general. And um, eventually, young adults are going to be the ones who are taking over the church. And
Yep.
so if you overlook them and you let them go out into culture, you'll look around suddenly and it'll be teeny tiny babies and we love our elders but just like elders and it's like okay but who's in the middle who's going to bring from one generation to the next which is kind of back to your verse that you guys built on so
It's that cream filling of the Oreo, the best part. No,
mhm. It's
all
true.
layers matter.
But
They do.
okay, question 4.5.
Oh gosh, what do you got?
Hmm.
How you are a young adult. How has your life been impacted being a part of a young adult ministry?
Oh, that's good. Hmm.
It's changed my life. It's what has kept me following after Jesus. I would
Wow.
say the prayers of my peers have been going through some of the toughest times in my life. Like they've kept me coming back. And I think the statement is true. You become like the five people that you surround yourself with the most. And so if you want to look at who you're becoming and who your friends are becoming, you better take inventory of yourself and them. And um, if you want to become more like Jesus, surround yourself with people who are also trying to become more like him. So,
I love it. Okay, so the fifth and final question. If you could share the best advice you've ever received, what is that advice? And would you be willing to share that with our audience?
yes. Okay. So, do you want it from a creative standpoint or from just like life in general?
You take it. Either way, you choose.
Okay. I think, yeah, just the best piece of advice I've ever received it's going to be the most simple one. Just give your life to Jesus and, get plugged into a local church and stay there and serve and then watch God do more than you could ever ask, think, or imagine. Like there's so much power in staying. And I feel
Yes.
like we don't recognize that. But I mean, you think as a previous personal trainer, it takes time to build muscle and it's painful, but the end result, you become so much stronger and healthier and your body thanks you for it. And just how much more so with your faith. Like there are going to be moments that are painful, and I'm not saying to stay through toxic situations, but
Mhm, mhm.
um, that's why it's so important to have people who are discipling you and then also be discipling others as well. So,
So good. I love that.
yeah,
Nadine, thank you so much for your time and spending it with us and our audience today. This has been nothing but a joy and inspiration, I think, for me
Legit.
specifically. I
Definitely.
speak for myself, but also I think this is really going to bless our listeners of understanding the importance of creativity, of community, and learning how to that both of them coincide with each other. It's not one or the other. Like it's a part of God's beautiful masterpiece, and people are a part
mhm.
of the creative process no matter what we look to and no matter what we're doing with our lives. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. This has been such a joy as well. You guys are amazing.
Hey, we're excited and so, so fun. We would just honor you. Thanks for the work that you do. Thanks for staying. Thanks for being a part of a great church and pouring into so many leaders today.
Of course, such an honor.